And hello and welcome to the Never Alone wrap-up video. I'm Rad Dragon,
And I'm Little Dansky.
and we're discussing Never Alone.
Yeah. Well, we could open this up with general impressions. What'd you think of it?
I really liked it. It's this nice, intensely mythological game with... It doesn't really kind of pull you out of this like half real, half spirit world kind of feeling that comes in with it.
Yeah, it kind of blends it into it's a story because it just kind of has that blend between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And everything interacts. Yeah.
Yeah, even the little tooltips they give you for the controls feel like they belong there.
Yeah, it's like Nasruk or whoever the narrator was kind of telling you it.
Yeah, just scribbling it on the screen for you.
Yep.
Awful nice of him.
Yeah. We can get the kind of seems like an age-old tale.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as saying this really breaks storytelling or gameplay ground. It's just this story is also probably damn near 10,000 years old, if not older.
Yeah, probably changed throughout verbal representations.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can go into what you think about level design.
Well, the level design on it's hard to tease the level design from the character design, from the art design.
Yeah, we wanted to break them into sections, but
it was difficult. It was quite difficult. The sort of the analogy I would use is that it's like your average game is kind of built like a motor. So you've got all these individual parts that work together and maneuver things. And it's very easy to kind of pull an individual part out and look at it and see how it interacts with things. But Never Alone is almost more like a living organism. It's very hard for you in your macro view to look at it and pull individual parts out and see how things interact.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very organic way to tell a story. Everything was a part of the story and how it told it. So, I mean, it was kind of, hard to differentiate. I mean, I would say it's simplistic for a platformer. But, yeah.
Yeah, but...
Yeah, it's more geared towards telling a story than anything else.
Yeah, that's the way I would say is that the story... The story drives the platformer rather than the platforming being used because of the story.
Mm-hmm.
The story is told... Rephrasing that with a little bit less of a word salad. The platforming is just used to tell the story. It's not like the story is there as an excuse for the platforming. Mm-hmm. There we go. English.
Yeah. And everything in the game, what I do enjoy was like a representation of the story itself. Like the wind was part of the end, the spirits were part of, Mr. Foxland.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, that's sort of the big thing with pretty much any American, North American, even South American native stories is that there's not a lot of divide between the spirit world and the physical world. They do overlap a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that theme kind of continues with the storytelling here.
Yeah, we can kind of go into artistic design with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely the artistic design bleeds over into the storytelling and the level design. You can kind of see why we had to sort of mishmash all of these together.
Mm-hmm. Like, I would easily call that a work of art. I mean, it pretty much did. But, yeah, we can kind of go... there's really nothing with it that pulls out of the atmosphere.
Yeah, like we said earlier, I mean, even like the little how-to controls, it almost seems like, your storyteller's writing them on the screen for you.
Yeah, and the narration kind of goes perfectly with it as you go on. The end was a little bit strange, but, I mean, you brought up a good point earlier about that.
Yeah, I don't really know a heck of a lot about this particular story. But it almost seems like it's part of a larger myth cycle, I would say. I guess to use an example that would be more relevant to most of our viewers is imagine if you just read the scene in the Odyssey with the Cyclops.
Yeah.
It has a very definite story arc to it. You've got the beginning, rising action, falling action, resolution, all that good story bits. But you definitely get a sense that it is part of a larger story.
Yeah.
And this feels like it is part of a bigger story arc. But the other counter to that, too, is Native American tales oftentimes are riddled with ambiguity just because, well, it's an ambiguous world we live in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, we can jump right to our critiques of the game.
We should probably also touch on some of the cultural stuff, too.
Right, we should jump to that, too. I forgot what I wrote down.
Downside about doing this with handwriting.
Yeah, well, cultural insights. I mean, I would give it a lot of praise. I mean, it was very nice.
Yeah, the big thing I had with it is that it lets you choose the amount of depth you can go into in the culture. I mean, if you just want to breeze through the platforming sections of the game, you can do that. Absorb a little bit of the culture, jump around on ice flows and dilapidated villages, and call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you could take some time out of your play session and watch these cultural insights, and it's entirely optional.
And I do suggest it. They are very good.
Yeah, it really takes some small little things, like in the cutscenes, that sort of art style. That's supposed to look like scrimshaw, where you're carving into ivory. And there's this whole giant thing about scrimshaw that exists, kind of off to the side of the main narrative of the game. But if you look into it, you're like, oh, okay, that's why that's done like that.
Yeah, it's like that. That's why everything looks so strange and, artist-based is basically it is. It's basically done like that. Yeah, it gives a lot of insight to the mythos. Like, you can ask the specific thing. Like, each and every owl we picked up, it kind of gave us a little tidbit of, like, what was happening during the game. Like, the Manslayer was close to the Manslayer point. The Little People was close to the Little People point.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, it pretty much embellishes on what you're saying.
Well, the other really good one there, too, is that because it's entirely optional, you don't have the Mass Effect problem where you walk up to some random jobber in the middle of a bar and suddenly get the backstory to an entire species.
Yeah. It is kind of annoying when the story team seems to be stomping you in the neck as you're trying to get through it.
Yeah, being forcibly injected down your throat.
Yeah. And I would say it's all worth it. Like, I mean...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It really kind of expands the sort of narrative universe of the game, and it makes a lot of smaller details kind of jump out at you.
Yeah, and it gives we're not going to show it, so it gives you a reason to buy the game.
Exactly. All right, now we can jump to the critiques.
Yeah, as that kind of leads to it is there's really very little replay value.
Minimal. I mean, honestly, you can play through once, without trying. I think I got all but 2 of the cultural insights, really.
Yeah, there's 2 somewhat hidden ones, and one we kind of missed while derping.
Yeah, and then another one when we came back through to recover some lost footage because my save went sideways.
And we had to practice how to do co-op.
Yeah, exactly. We got all of them, all 22.
Yeah, and I believe a second playthrough gives you more, but...
Yeah, I think I saw a couple ones in there that didn't look familiar, but... Yeah, and that kind of comes down to it is this game is like 2 hours long.
Yeah,
total.
Most.
Something like that. I mean, when we did our second playthrough, we did it in, I think, under an hour.
Yeah, we even went to lunch.
Oh, yeah, we wound up... the footage you're seeing over this was something we recorded, and in the middle of it went to lunch, came back, played up to the point where we were before, I lost my save, and it's an hour and 45 minutes long, with burritos in there.
Yeah, no, just the length. I mean, it was pretty much lack of content. There were several controller issues that were pretty hard to get used to, especially in the single player.
Yeah, the controls are fairly imprecise for a platformer, which isn't so bad with 2 people. It's actually fairly minimal. It's just when you're trying to do all this precision platforming, especially towards the end, and switching between characters, one of whom moves fairly
like you're swimming.
Yeah, like you're swimming. It's just... it's a little bit aggravating.
Yeah. I mean, having a migraine probably didn't help.
No, migraine did not help at all.
And, yeah, I mean, beyond the control issues, I mean, it was short and, yeah, minimal.
Yeah.
And so with that, I'd say let's do a wrap-up. Do we recommend it?
Yes, with some caveats. The big thing about it is you're not necessarily buying a game, you're buying a work of art.
Mm-hmm.
So you've basically seen pretty much the entire game already by watching this series, minus the cultural insights.
Because you gotta have something new.
Oh yeah, we made a very conscious decision to leave those out, just so they, you would have a reason to buy the game.
Yeah, I guess beyond that, since there's not much, I would argue suggesting the genre of game over the game itself.
Well, exactly. These storytelling-heavy platformers, I mean, like Braid, Limbo, Valiant Hearts.
They're all very short, but very, very good.
Yeah. But, my sort of other counter to that is you I would also think is that this game is a reward for donation. That just happens to be for the cost of the game.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, you could say, hey, I like what you're doing. Here's some of my money.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you buy it on super sale and get it like 80% off, you're still giving the developer, and Valve.
You're giving someone money.
People are getting money.
Mm-hmm. As long as you don't get like a bootleg copy on the street.
Yeah.
Do people even do that anymore?
I would imagine so.
And yeah, I mean, doing that, there's not much else to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, we do recommend it with some caveats, just, the length, and there's not a lot of replay value. And for the love of God, Upper One Games, make more games like this. This kicked ass.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, it was very much an educational experience. I loved looking into it.
So, I think that wraps it up.
Yeah.
I'm Rat Dragon.
And I'm Little Dansky.
That was Never Alone.
Never Alone.